Top of the morning. It is currently 6:12 in the morning, and we're doing the same thing that we did yesterday, and that was basically look for an opening range breakout, whether to the upside or the downside, depending on where market exactly wants to go to. And until then, I do have to move my car, so I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. We have about 3 minutes before market does open. Is it here, please? Or my cat. Motherfucker loves chilling on my table, but Papa needs to fucking lock in. Let me show my screen. Show y'all what I have right now. It's nothing much. Like I said, usually I'm just waiting for an opening range breakout, whether it is to the upside or the downside. Oh wow. So that is Asia high right there for them. Oh man. I hate when it does this. Please. There you go. So that is Asia high. Alright. So yeah, today I believe we are gonna do something similar as far as like marking both these on a 15-minute time frame. Dude, I feel like ES is going to sweep out Asia high first. We do have news at 7 a.m. PMI and JOLTS. So see how that plays out. We have about another minute. And these are some other key levels that we're just marking out from last night when I was on Discord with the boys. But we shall see. I do believe ES is gonna sweep out this Asia high first, creating a SMT. Well, I don't know why I did that, but it is gonna create an SMT. In which case, we might be looking for some shorts tonight. We do all have all this like resting orders from yesterday. Resting orders like Southside liquidity accumulated as far as London, New York AM, and New York lunch. But yeah, we shall see. 6:15 candles about to be done forming. I'm looking at how volatile that ES candle is though. Oh yeah. There you go. Let's go drop to the 1 minute. There you go. So ES had just swept that Asia high, whereas NQ's lacking. They also tapped into a 15-minute fair value gap, but it's like a minor one. So who really knows? Same thing. Orb. So keeping in mind that we do have the 7 a.m. news, I just want to see exactly what market tends to do. I feel like we might be trying to look for shorts here. I'm not looking for a clear setup, but if we could possibly get a change in the state here, then that's when I will apply my standard deviation. Let's see if this will align with anything. It's a little tough, it's kind of hard to read, really. But say we wait, don't predict. Man, over in the West Coast, it's so hard because it's like 6 a.m. where we or like yeah 6:30 a.m. where we have to wake up. So all those motherfuckers on the East Coast, they're so so lucky. Okay, so we actually have not gotten a candle closure on where like outside of the the opening range breakout. So that's what we will wait on. But I feel like they're damn. Look at ES. I feel like they're leaning towards longs since we already we've already wicked out. But we need to see a candle closure. Yeah, so right there. Hmm. If we could get a candle closure here, past that, we can completely disregard that because it's such a it's such a tiny fair value gap that I don't think it holds that much power. Even though yes, bro, even though yes, higher time frame holds higher power. Um, it's such a little one. I'm not really too confident on that one. But if we could possibly see changes stay here, that might be a possibility. I don't think we will though. But even if we do, let's see what are we looking for. 0.62. Nope. See. Okay, so ES retested going to the downside. They broke out to the downside, having a full candle closure below. So, gotta keep that in mind. And it's -1 range as well. Like I always want to keep that in mind that after or we want to see this level get tested and then possibly retrace back down into the opening range zone. Okay. SMT might hold due to the fact that I'm looking at ES. They're retesting the midpoint of the opening range, but that's an aggressive candle. Holy crap. So the reason why I put a CISD there is because this was the last leg pre-market that swept out any sort of or any sort of like sell side, I guess, to be able to move up. Might not seem as reliable, but that's just the way I'm looking at it. In which we already got a CISD right there. Yeah, see, and ES had already retested this Asia high. In other words, possibly might be going shorts. Look at this aggressive. I low key might just hop into this. it's like I want to see retest within these zones. There is a 1 minute fair value gap here, a bearish one at that. We're within the 0.62 range. You see, we tested the -1 zone, and now we got a straight inverse, and possibly gonna see if we could come back down. I want to see it test out these levels, 0.5 and 0.62. And if we do, after that, I do want to see a possible inverse back to the upside, possibly sweeping out this Asia, because we did leave it untested, but at the same time that could account for an SMT. You know, I'm just yapping just to yap, maybe sound a little bit smart, but realistically I don't know if I know what I'm talking about. But y'all see my thought process behind this, so I think that's what truly matters. Still early on though, you know. Still early on into the market open, so can't really be expecting much. Like I said, we do have news at 7 a.m. PMI and JOLTS. This whole entire week is pretty stacked. Oh, CPI news next week. Yeah, we're on that. Yeah. I mean, everything seems to be on par. I'm not really seeing much. I do believe that we are gonna try and sweep out this Asia high because we left it like there's a couple points off. We are most likely going to like sweep that out before possibly moving back down, but who knows? Anything is really possible in this game. Okay, and they had just swept. It's a little tricky, only due to the fact that these -2 and -2.5 range don't really align with much. Except, I mean, I do see a 15, but I also do see this 5, which honestly could probably work a little bit better. Let's try that out. See where this lies about within the ranges. Yeah, a little bit better. With -2 being within the midpoint, but then I think there's another 5 minute, another 5 minute gap right over here. We'll keep that in mind though. That is a bearish fair value gap. 5 minutes. In other words, I do want to see if we could possibly get a retracement back down. See, we're kind of sitting within this -2 and -2.5 range. That's also within this 5 minute fair value gap. I do want to see a possible retracement, maybe soon, going back into the opening range breakout for a retest and see if it respects it or not, to see if we will keep moving up. My only problem is that I don't think, besides, oh wait, I don't know, delayed. Besides like Asia High and everything else, I don't think there are any other, sources of liquidity, to be honest with you. We have this external, Friday, 26th, dang, of December. This previous high, but, we'll see. Oh. This thing's pumping though. I will say that. Right now, it looks like the market is just chopping. Look at ES pumping, bro. Look at NQ just following. Don't know if we will see an actual setup present itself, because one thing I do believe is that by the time this standard deviation completes itself, we will maybe look for a reversal. Yeah, my bad for yawning. Like I said, it's tough out here in the West Coast because gotta wake up hella early, and you really only have like about an hour, depending on what time you wake up, to be able to fix your bed, wash up, go walk your dog, Fortunately, I have a cat, so motherfucker just cleans himself. I don't really gotta do much except clean the litter box. Could we see an inverse? Another possible setup I always like to see is market trying to go back into discount. So whether it is the 0.5 or the 0.62 or the opening range breakout in general, if we could possibly see an inverse of this 1 minute, that could be a possible, play. What I mean by is this one. It's a tiny 1 minute, which makes it a little bit like eh. At the same time, it's like you never really know. You know? You know. But it looks like we're respecting it at the moment, so just gonna let it play out. Holy crap. I would low-key want to get into this if they inverse it, low-key. So they inversed it initially, but like I said, it's such a tiny gap to where it doesn't hold as much power as we think it does. I'm not even too sure, and quite frankly, I don't think it does. Just from the fact that look at the very next candle, we're bullish. But we need some sort of retracement. Excuse me. I'm tired. Oh, look at this. About a doji. A bearish doji. Look at ES. Got some aggressive candles going on there. So, what I'm seeing right now is that on NQ, they've come back onto the -2 range within the 5 minute gap, and they were just retesting it, closing right above it, not indicating that we possibly are going to come back down. But on ES, they retested where Asia high was once at, and they're closing above it, and to me that indicates that they're going to keep pushing up higher. In other words, it looks like they are. We could possibly see maybe an inverse. We can do like a little scalp. No clear targets there. I will disregard this. You know, I do believe they are going to try and complete this full standard deviation. I may be wrong by the time 7 a.m. hits, but a possible setup I see is market to potentially come back into this -2 or 2.5 range like it did, to be able to move up higher. In other words, this would be my break-even point at that. But for me to be more confident within that setup, I would like to see market form a bearish fair value gap, which then in turn gets inversed. It doesn't really look like doesn't look like it's gonna happen though, but we shall see. Yeah.
Good morning, man.
Good morning. I mean, they already work within the break-even point. No, no. They're just chopping around right now. I do want to see what 7 a.m. brings. Dang, what a candle though. What are we looking like on a higher time frame? 5 minute. Oh, we've already inversed it, closing on the outside, so I'm not really too surprised. Low key would want to hop into this trade. Should have looked in a higher time frame. I'm so tempted to like just press buy, cause I feel like it's already gonna reach this point. But it could always just do something like this where, yeah, it just retraces the fuck back down, which is always scary to me. I think that used to be my gambling and like unprofitable mindset where it's like, oh my gosh, it's pumping, I'm gonna just hop into this. But no, I wanna see a clear setup actually present itself. Like like I said, even if it does reach the -4 zone, I don't know if I will be able to find another setup, especially since it's about to be 7 a.m. Um, if by 7 a.m. they're not retesting within the opening range, then I feel like I would have already dismissed my full move. As far as I see here, by 6:31, market did dip back down into like the 0.62 range, which is like an optimal entry point for me. In other words, then it just started pumping up. And from then missed the entire move already, you know. But how could I have known? Hmm. I'm just looking because usually when seeing this, I always like to see an inverse off of a gap, but I'm not seeing, you know. really any inverse. Let's remove that. See, we are barely just like wicking out though, which might be a possibility for us to potentially go lower. In other words, what I want to find are any inverses of gaps proving to me that they will go down. It's very tricky though. Cause yeah, see, I'm noticing how every time they do come back into this range, they are getting reactions going back up to the upside. 30, how about 15 seconds? This indicates to me that they are possibly gonna keep going up higher, which I want to see some sort of test. Seven a.m. There's that candle. Yep. A good test off the Asia high. Coming back down. I low-key want to get any shorts because they just closed below this Asia high and we're getting reaction off of that. I want to see how this potentially closes up though. Look at market. Look at ES. Look at the way they are testing out that zone. I think depending on how ES closes, that's when I will fulfill on NQ, depending on the closure. I'm hopping in the shorts.
Order filled.
I'm liking the reaction of ES where they are just rejecting off this midpoint. Oh, I guess stopped out.
Order filled.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Should have just waited, but that's fine. We will take one more trade. Take one more trade, and if we don't see anything, then that's it for the day. Should be all fine. Give me a second. Alright, back up in here. Alright, so what I potentially would want to see next is an inverse coming back up to the upside. Only due to the fact, I should have waited, only due to the fact that since it already is 7 a.m. and we didn't get a test within the opening range breakout, I do believe that we were going to go bullish, even though, yes, I initially did go shorts that were just often posted in this. Shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I think if we are going to keep continuing back to the upside, I do want to see some sort of inverse going back up. So potentially this 30-second gap or even a 1-minute gap. And if I'm able to see that, then I mean, that'd be perfect. Look at the reaction of that though. Wow, what an aggressive push down. I'm looking at ES and see how after we got that candle closure below it, they are now starting to reject and they're struggling to continue up on higher. Which I'm not too sure because I still am looking for longs. And if we inverse this 1-minute gap, then I will hop in this. And I will set this as my break-even point. Yo. I'm in there.
Order filled.
I swear if it comes back down. Then I'm cooked. You see, and part of me would want to possibly come back, make the little bit amount of profit I have left because I do need to make 1,500 within a day to be able to pass this account. In which, in other words, that's exactly what I want to do. So if I were to, I want to see how this candle closes first because I might potentially get stopped out again. And even if I do, then that's it for me for the day.
Order filled.
Stopped out. And I think that's it for me today. You know, down 1,000. Not too happy with that, of course, but what can we do? You know, we do what we can. We live to trade another day, and that's it. Catch y'all on the flip side.